Well, welcome everyone, and welcome back to the People's House. Nice to have a meeting in person. Welcome to the special call meeting, April 20th, 2021. At this time, I'd like to have the City Clerk Beth Davis to please call the roll.
Commissioner Jeff Sanford,
Here.
Commissioner Mark Caslen,
Here.
Mayor Tom Watson,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Larry Magliner,
Here.
Commissioner Bob Glenn.
Here.
Thank you. Item 3, invocation and pledge. And Mag, don't forget to do the pledge like I did last time, okay? So if you'll please stand for the invocation. Thank you.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, as we gather here today, we pray that we do our best and always act with results that are best for our community and our fellow citizens. We ask that you guide and direct our meeting so that it's full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. Thank you for helping us to accomplish our work and our goals this day. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next item on the agenda is the retirement recognition. Now, how are we doing that tonight? Just reading the name? They're not here? Okay. All right. The first one is Ms. Gail Shockley, Office Manager with Engineering Department, retired from the city March 31st, 2021 after 22 years of service. Leslie Smethers, Loss Prevention Manager with the Personnel Department, will retire from the city on April 30th, 2021 after 18 years of service. And Bill Thompson, Labor Maintenance Helper with the Public Works Department, will retire from the city on April 30th, 2021 after 30 years of service. So we thank you all for your service and clap for you.
Yeah.
Okay, at this time I've got a couple of proclamations I'd like to share with you. I can get them all in the right spot here. Is Jacqueline here? I guess not. Okay. The first proclamation was requested by the CEO of the Greater Owensboro Realtor Association. Oh, yeah, I see this note now. I said they'll pick it up Wednesday, so I don't guess she's here. Right? Correct? Where's Adrian? Okay, whereas the Fair Housing Act enacted on April the 11th, 1968, enshrined into federal law the goal of eliminating racial segregation and ending housing discrimination in the United States. And whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, color, religion, sex, familiar status, national origin, and disability, and commits recipients of federal funding to affirmatively further fair housing in their communities. And whereas the City of Owensboro is committed to the mission and the intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all, and whereas our social fabric, the economy, health, and environment are strengthened in diverse, inclusive communities. And whereas more than 50 years after the passage of the Fair Housing Act, discrimination persists and many communities remain segregated. And whereas acts of housing discrimination and barriers to equal housing opportunities are repugnant to a common sense of decency and fairness. Now therefore, I, Thomas H. Watson, Mayor of the City of Owensboro, do hereby proclaim April the 2021 as Fair Housing Month in Owensboro as an inclusive community committed to fair housing and promoting appropriate activities by private and public entities to provide and advocate for equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents of Owensboro, Kentucky. Signed and sealed this 20th day of April, 2021. And Jacqueline will be here Wednesday to pick this up. So Next item is Occupational Therapy Month. And we have Ms. Hatfield. Yay, how you doing? CEO of TheraTree LLC, and Tricia Phelps, occupational therapist from Progressive Rehab and Sports Medicine. This is a long one now, so don't get in a hurry. Proclamation by the City of Owensboro, whereas the services of occupational therapy enable people of all ages and abilities to participate in the activities which give meaning and purpose to their lives by working to overcome obstacles related to their health status that prevent involvement in life's daily occupations. And whereas the impacted occupations of infants, toddlers, young children, and are addressed in occupational therapy practitioners through development milestones such as facilitating movement to grasp with hands, respond to others' emotion, engage with the environment, learning to attend and follow simple instructions, developing the ability to eat, drink, wash, and dress independently, learning to cope with disappointment or failure, tolerating extraneous environmental stimuli, building skills for sharing, taking turns and playing with peers, using toys and materials in both traditional and creative ways, and participating in age-appropriate daily routines. Whereas occupational therapy practitioners are distinctly qualified to support productive and meaningful participation in community activities that enhance the quality of life for individuals with autism and their families. Occupational therapy practitioners are particularly skilled in using evidence-based strategies to address self-regulation and sensory needs, adaptive skills, motor development, mental health, social participation, and daily life skills. And whereas occupational therapy offers support to our community in many different ways across the individual's entire lifespan, educating individuals, families, institutions, and systems is important for our community and quality of life for our children, adults, and seniors. Whereas the health and well-being of our citizens is dependent on access to occupational therapy services in Owensboro, in community agencies, hospitals, skilled nursing facilities, rehab centers, outpatient clinics, schools, social agencies, industry, and private practice. Now, therefore, I, Thomas Hart Watson, Mayor of the City of Owensboro, do hereby proclaim April 2021 as Occupational Therapy Month in Owensboro. In recognition of the important work done by occupational therapists and occupational therapy assistants, I urge all citizens to participate in the scheduled activities sponsored by TheraTree Pediatric Therapy Services and other community organizations to recognize the importance of occupational therapeutic services. Signed and sealed this 20th day of April, 2021. Okay, you're welcome to speak, and we'll. Seems like all of us could use a bunch of this stuff, you know, behaving and acting right amongst our friends and everything. Seems
Absolutely.
like we all could have some OT.
Hi, I'm Jessica Hatfield. I'm an occupational therapist and the CEO of TheraTree Pediatric Therapy Services. And I have this radical idea about my role in healthcare, and it comes from the idea that your child can't be fixed. Because to be fixed, you must first be broken. And the children and families in our community are not broken. Now, they may be facing challenges, and these challenges are real, they're valid, and they're affecting their life, and I see that. And it's my role to create this access for their voice to be heard, their body to move, and to be independent. And so I appreciate and really want to thank you for recognizing and appreciating occupational therapy, and together we can grow minds, bodies, and spirits. Thank you.
Okay, I'll present this proclamation to you if we could. And I charge $5 for a picture. Okay. You guys want to come down? Sure. A little photo op. Collect your own money. see you in jail? Okay, here we go. Good job. There we go.
Not me.
Okay. That was the fun part. Now we get down to business. 5A, I'd like for you to consider the approval of minutes dated March 16th, 2021. I'll make a motion to approve. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion about the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 5B, I ask you to consider these board appointments, please. Westland Shawnee Neighborhood Alliance, reappoint Clyde Miller to a 2-year term effective April the 25th, 2021. Seven Hills Neighborhood Alliance, reappoint Rob Norris to a 2-year term effective April the 8th, 2021. Dugan Best Neighborhood Alliance, reappoint Deborah Street to a 2-year term effective May 22nd. Owensboro Historic Preservation Board, reappoint Gary Adams to a 3-year term effective May the 17th, 2021. Could I have a motion to approve these appointments, please?
Motion. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I want to thank Adrian Caracol, Neighborhood Alliance Extraordinaire, keeping those things going. She's doing a wonderful job. So all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, ordinances, second reading. There will be a roll call vote. 6A, Ms. Davis.
Thank you. Ordinance 6-2021, an ordinance closing a portion of a street right-of-way being Faust Avenue between 711 Faust Avenue and 1802 West 7th Street in the city of Owensboro, Kentucky, at the request of Local Property Holdings, LLC. Publicly read for approval on second reading this 20th day of April, 2021.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve. Could I have a second, please?
Second?
Okay. City Manager, do you have any comments?
I do, Mayor, just briefly.
Okay, briefly.
This is second reading of an ordinance closing a portion of Faust Avenue between West 7th and the railroad. Like other recent right-of-way closings in the area, this section of street to be closed dead ends into the railroad, so there is no negative impact from a transportation perspective on this closure. The property owner requesting the closure owns all property contiguous to or adjacent to the right-of-way to be closed, and they are the developer who has initiated some of the other recent closures. They've acquired 7 or 8 parcels in the area that they're consolidating. The utility easement will be retained for Atmos, OMU, and RWRA to access their infrastructure.
Okay. Any further discussion? Ms. Davis, roll call.
Commissioner Glenn?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Magliner?
Yes.
Mayor Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Caslen?
Yes.
Commissioner Sanford?
Yes.
Okay. Item 7, ordinance, first reading. There are none. Item 8, municipal orders. Item 8A, Ms. Davis.
Municipal Order 11-2021, a municipal order approving the Community Catalyst Grant programs targeted for the Northwest Neighborhood Revitalization Strategy area, introduced and publicly read for approval this 20th day of April, 2021.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Davis, Larry said he can't hear you, so you're going to have to speak up.
I think City Manager has comment.
You want me to call on City Manager?
Please, yes, please.
City Manager, do you have any comments?
I do, Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The city typically has a redevelopment target area called a neighborhood revitalization strategy area where we invest community development block grant funds we receive from the federal government. We are wrapping up the Triplet Twist area and moving to the Northwest Initiative. While the federal funds are well utilized and very much appreciated, there are some restrictions on how the funds can be used. As a result, some members of the commission expressed a desire to supplement the federal funding with local funding that would be more flexible for meeting needs in the area. Mayor asked Commissioners Maglinger and Sanford to be involved, and those commissioners worked closely with Abby, Shelton, and myself over the last few months. At the last Board of Commissioners meeting, Abby presented the proposed locally funded programs. This municipal order approves the programs for local funding as Abby presented last month. It does not, however, provide any funding, as funding for the program is subject to the annual budget process.
Which is Thursday?
Thursday.
Okay, get your get your numbers in by Thursday. Okay, any other comments, please? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item 8B, please, Ms. Davis.
Municipal Order 12-2021, a municipal order authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a real estate purchase agreement for the acquisition of property located at 118 East Veterans Boulevard, introduced and publicly read for approval this 20th day of April, 2021.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
City Manager, do you want to explain this to you? Spending my money again?
I do,
Okay.
Mayor.
You do?
So, well, I am. I do.
Yeah.
Would I will direct your attention to the map. You all have a hard copy of that on your in front of you. Unfortunately, the screens are not working properly to where we can put that up electronically.
Is that in the budget to get the screens working?
We will have them working soon, yes, sir. So this municipal order authorizes the purchase of 118 East Veterans Boulevard. That is the parcel in red on the map in front of you. The city has leased this property for the last several years. Recently, the owners approached us to ask if we would consider buying the property. We utilize the property for employees working downtown and in Smothers Park, and we own the two parcels contiguous or adjacent to the east, so it makes sense for us to purchase this property. With the purchase, we will own approximately half of the frontage along Veterans for the block between Davis and Allen Streets, so the area could make a redevelopment project at some point in the future as well.
Okay, excellent. Any other discussion? That is excellent buy. What did he say? He was paying more in taxes than he thought it was worth?
That's my understanding. We're paying more in taxes than it was generating in rent.
There you go. That's it. All right, good. Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Item 8C, is that correct, Ms. Davis?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Municipal Order 13-2021, a municipal order amending and correcting Municipal Order 22-2020, as that order relates to the sale and approximately 22 and 912 combined acres of surplus real property located on Pleasant Valley Road, introduced and publicly read for approval this 20th day of April, 2021.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
City Manager, you want to explain this?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, Mayor. And actually, the next two municipal orders are related to the same subject. However, there are two different orders, so they require two separate votes. In August of 2020, or last year, the Commission approved the acquisition of 24.280 acres at the end of the existing Fairview Drive for an extension of that street. Only 1.366 acres are actually needed for the right-of-way of the Fairview Drive extension itself. So therefore, in that same August of 2020 meeting, the Commission also authorized the sale of the remaining 22.874 acres that are not required for the project for the same price that we are paying for the property. So in other words, the property that we don't need, we're buying, but we're turning around and selling it for the same price. Sale of city property is governed by state law. That 2020 municipal order that approved the sale of the unneeded property had an incorrect subsection of the law that was referenced. So this first municipal order is simply a cleanup to correct the reference from KRS 82083, Section 4, subsection G to KRS 82083, Section 4, subsection B. So it is merely a technical cleanup to correct a reference to subsection G instead of subsection B.
Okay, so you want to explain maybe to the public why we're buying land and selling it to a developer?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as last year, the city submitted a grant application for the Fairview Drive extension, and I believe we were awarded $500,000 for that project. The project, or the grant that required the project to go all the way through from the existing termination of Fairview in the Downs neighborhood all the way to Hayden Road, the Hayden Road 603 intersection in Gateway Commons. So part of that, we had to acquire about 1.3 or 1.4 acres of right-of-way. The property owners were not willing to sell only that portion that was needed, and so the smallest they were willing to sell us was the 24-acre portion. And so we either had to make a decision about potentially condemning that property and taking them to court to acquire the 1.4 acres, or alternatively acquire the entire 24 acres. The commission at the time wanted to acquire the 24 acres with the provision that we try to sell off the unneeded acreage for the same price. So in effect, we're being made whole and only paying for, or the only net cost to the city is for the 1.366 acres that we need.
So when does the city get their money back?
So that's actually in the next
one?
order. This is
Okay.
just to clean up, just to
All right. I can hold
reference
my-
the correct subsection of the
All right.
revised statute regarding the sale of property.
Okay, is there any other questions up here? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Pardon me?
You're fine.
Item 8D, please, Ms. Davis.
Municipal Order 14-2021, a municipal order authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an addendum to the August 14, 2020 real estate purchase agreement entered into with Professional Properties and Construction, LLC, concerning the sale of approximately 22 and 912 thousandths combined acres of real property formerly located on Pleasant Valley Road. Introduced and publicly read for approval this 20th day of April, 2021.
Well, thank you. I'll make a motion to approve. Could I have a second, please?
Second?
Thank you. City Manager,
Yes,
now
so-
you can unwind this thing a little
So
bit.
regarding the exact same project and those unneeded 22 approximately acres that we do not need for the road right-of-way. So this municipal order on the topic amends our agreement for selling the unneeded property. The agreement originally had the property selling in a single transaction. However, the unneeded property is actually 2 tracts or parcels of land, so this amended agreement allows the sale to proceed in 2 separate transactions, one for each tract. The first by June 30th of this year, and the second no later than 2 years from the first transaction. The sales price does not change, so we are still selling it for the same price for which we paid for the property. And in addition, the buyer is paying the city an additional $50,000 earnest deposit towards the transaction.
So we've paid the panel people for the property,
We
correct?
have acquired the property, correct?
To acquire the property. So we're just holding it until the developer is ready to buy the other part. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mayor. So essentially, on one of the parcels that they understand have tenants or projects that wish to move
Possible
forward,
development.
and that they, in effect, want to be in by the same time that the middle school opens. And so in order for the developer to meet that deadline, he needs to get started as soon as possible.
And I was wanting you to kind of tie in the middle school and the road, because it's not just buying this land and holding it for a developer until they can decide what to do with it, but it all has to do with the overall project of this middle school and the road and the 5 people that own the road and all that stuff. So share that with us, please.
That's a very good point. So, because again, we're working more on the Downs end or the Fairview Drive end. There's another piece of the project going as well in front of the middle school where it connects into the 603 Hayden Road intersection and Gateway Commons there on that relatively new stoplight. And so when the road goes all the way through, it'll be a very nice needed extension of the transportation network in that area. It'll have a greenbelt type of shared use path, and that will be the primary entrance to the new Davis County Middle School. So it's a very much needed public improvement for the area.
And the people, and there was 3 of us or 4 of us paying for that road now. We put the $500,000 we got in that grant,
That's right.
and then there's a public-private partnership, wasn't it?
That's right. Different parties are doing different aspects of the road. The school system has some responsibilities related to access and turning lanes for their area. The developer in Gateway Commons is building a section of the road. I'm not sure which LLC that's under, Gateway Land perhaps, but that developer is doing a portion of the road, and then we're responsible for certain sections of the road as well. So it is a unique partnership that has 3 or 4 different partners involved to make it work.
Yeah, and I wanted to stress that, just how important it is to the community to be able to partner with the private sector to get something done like this, because if we weren't able to partner and they weren't willing to partner, you wouldn't have the middle school, you wouldn't have the road, you wouldn't have the opportunity for growth out there on the panel property. So that's how and it's complicated, but it takes time. How long have we been working on this? 3 years?
A good 24 months, yes.
So, but it's going to work out well, and that road is very important for that sector of our community that we have annexed in.
Correct.
And for growth. So that's kind of the whole shoot match. So anybody else? You want to jump in, Gardner?
No?
Okay. All right, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 8D, Ms. Davis.
Municipal Order 15-2021, a municipal order authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an application for a fiscal year 2021 state Homeland Security grant through the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security in the amount of $263,530, the proceeds of which will be utilized by the Owensboro Police Department to purchase a tactical, multi-purpose response and rescue vehicle, for which no match is required. Introduced and publicly read for approval this 20th day of April, 2021.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
City Manager, do you have any comments?
Just briefly to reiterate what the city clerk said, this municipal order authorizes a Homeland Security grant application for a new response vehicle for the police department's emergency response team, and that's essentially what you may think of sometimes called a SWAT team. This vehicle is expensive at approximately $263,530, but there's no match for the grant, so it will not cost the city anything to acquire it if the grant is successful. If you have any technical questions about what that vehicle is or what it does, Chief Elam is much more qualified to answer that than I am.
Chief, would you please answer that for us, please? Because this is pretty exciting for us to have this opportunity to get this with a no match.
What questions do you have, Mr. Mayor?
Just explain to us just exactly what this vehicle will be able to do to protect our citizens.
In the case of an active shooter situation, whether it be a school or manufacturing plant, it would enable officers to approach, that building or facility and potentially save human life. If somebody was shot and down, it would give us adequate cover to allow EMS personnel to go in and treat the wounded. So also, that vehicle can carry up to 22 civilians. So it'd be crammed tight. It's not going to be comfortable, but if we needed to
No
get
social
people out of
distancing
harm's
in there?
way, that certainly would benefit.
Well, why wouldn't we have one of these to this point is my question. I guess I'm trying to get to, is it just the scenario this country's in now that these are becoming more prevalent? Or what, do most cities have the opportunity to have this type of vehicle?
Some larger cities have them. Years ago, there was a big push from the public about the way the armored personnel carriers. We actually have one of those, but it's so big and bulky and kind of offensive, but we use it just for that purpose. These vehicles, this is probably a Lenco Bearcat is what it's called, is more maneuverable. In fact, after the Marshall County shooting, they applied for this grant and received, the Bearcat, and they actually drove it from Marshall County on the highway to Owensboro, and they can drive up to 55 miles an hour comfortably. But the big armored personnel carriers are just
Clumsy.
bulky and cumbersome, and you can't move. It takes forever to get from here to there. So my goal would be for our agency to have one, because if you look at what's happening in our country, all around us, we want to be proactive. We don't want to wait until after we have an incident and be like, oh, well, now we should apply for this. We're trying to get ahead of it, and if you recall, we actually applied for the same grant last year, And I think the Homeland Security Office, the federal government, this is something that they are wanting to fund these grants for, is terrorism, anti-terrorism, or domestic terrorism, as we've seen over the past year. So it's a great opportunity for us. Hope, pray that we get it.
So we're just applying for it. We don't necessarily for sure we're going to get it.
No, no guarantees, just application.
So who do we need to call?
You're the man, sir.
I was just wondering, is
Commissioner
this...
Cashland, your turn.
Thank you, Mayor, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I can't get
it-
it's a long way up.
It is. Is this vehicle bulletproof?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Glenn,
Thank you. So about a year
please
ago.
get to the mic, Bob. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all
Thank
right.
you, thank
We
you.
need to hear you.
About a year and a half ago, there was an article in the Messenger Inquirer about incorporating EMTs from our fire department into an emergency shooting scenario where they would be brought in and they'd try to treat people who were in the middle, who had already been shot in the early stages. Presumably, the active shooter would be in another part of the building. Would this vehicle help us to evacuate victims, and would it also help protect fire personnel, fire rescue personnel that go into those buildings?
Yes, it would provide cover and protection because it is, like he asked, it is an armored vehicle. And so it would afford them the ability to triage patients as, you know, our emergency response team and police officers make their way through the building to stop the threat.
Yeah, because the big issue with like previous shootings like Columbine was they didn't get to the victims quickly enough, and they could have done it in a staged way. Once they knew the active shooter was out of a particular area, they
Yes.
could have gone in and treated. So,
Right.
thank you, Chief. Appreciate all the great work you and your officers are doing.
All right.
And Mayor, thank you.
You're welcome. You know, because as elected officials, this is our #1 priority is public safety. No question about it. So, okay, Ms. Davis, where are we? Can we vote now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Let's go to item 8F. Ms. Davis.
Municipal Order 16-2021, a municipal order authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an application for a fiscal year 2021 state Homeland Security grant through the Kentucky Office of Homeland Security in the amount of $29,086.73, the proceeds of which will be utilized by the City of Owensboro to purchase ballistic panels and surveillance cameras for City Hall, for which no match is required. Introduced and publicly read for approval this 20th day of April, 2021.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
City Manager?
Yes, this municipal order is for another Homeland Security grant application, this time for security improvements to City Hall and the Commission chambers, or the room which we are in right now. The application includes ballistic panels for the chambers and security cameras around the perimeter of City Hall. Again, no match is required, so the improvements will not require any city funding if the application is approved.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9, City Manager items. 9A, sir.
Yes, Mayor Angela Waninger will present the financial report as of March 31st.
Ms. Tesla, go for it.
Hi, Mayor.
Hello.
I have before you the February and the March financial statements. I'll be speaking to the March financials, and if anyone has any questions on February, just let me know and we can address February by exception. And as the city manager mentioned earlier, we do not have access to our PowerPoints, so you may follow along on the PowerPoint slide if you like, or if you prefer more detail, you may refer to page 3 of your financial report, so whichever your preference is. So typically we look at the slides, so if you want to look at slide 1, or as I said, page 3, you'll see general fund revenue for the month of March. For the month of March, our actual revenues were $3,858,237, which was lower than budgeted revenues of $9,149,874. This large difference of $5.3 million is primarily due to a budget amendment which you all voted for and we recorded in the month of March for the CARES Act funding. So of that difference, $5.6 million was a budget amendment. So if you look at the next slide, it'll be our year-to-date revenues for the general fund through March. So for the 9 months ended March 2021, our actual revenues of $51,337,606 were higher than our budgeted revenues of $50,933,846 for a positive variance of $403,760. This variance is primarily due to higher occupational tax withholding and property tax revenue, which is partially offset by lower other revenues, which are mostly due to timing, and lower in lieu of, which is our agreement with OMU, which is offset by lower expenses.
Ms.
Waniger?
Waniger,
Yes.
so I just want to brag on our community, and city manager gave me a little heads up. Can you speak to the excellent occupational license?
Yes, Mayor, I'd be happy to. Our occupational license fees through March, we are $1.6 million higher than budget. Our occupational revenues through March are $15,367,595. And in my experience, I've always thought and said that the occupational payroll withholdings is the best indicator that we have for our local economy. So I think that speaks well for Owensboro.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Way to go, OBKY.
Yes. And just to speak to, the variance on current month for the CARES funding, the budget amendment was done in March. Now, the actuals, we received $4.3 million back in September. We also received $1.4 million in January. So you see in the year-to-date revenues how that kind of leveled out. So on our third slide, which is our general fund expenditures for the month of March, we had actual expenditures of $4,247,266, which were more than the budgeted expenditures of $4,151,732 for a variance of $95,534. This variance is primarily due to timing and debt service, which is offset by savings in personnel services. Our fourth slide, which represents our year-to-date expenditures for the general fund, for the 9 months ended March, actual expenditures of $41,461,728 were less than budgeted expenditures, of $45,340,532 for a variance of $3,878,804. This variance is primarily due to savings in personnel services, which year-to-date we have savings of $1.1 million in personnel services, timing in capital, supplies, and outside services. A large part of that is our street work, things that we do in the warmer months is part of that variance as well.
So tell us about the employment services. What does that mean exactly?
Well, in our personnel services,
Personnel services.
that's where we have had vacancies. And so what we do, we budget all of our positions at full capacity. And so police is a good example of where we've had vacancies. And so vacancies in police. And so we have savings then, if you will, in the salaries and the related expenditures that go with the salaries, such as the retirement, health insurance, and so forth.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good explanation.
And on our last slide, which is the fifth slide, you'll see and what this does just shows the cycle, the monthly cyclical nature of our revenues, expenditures. And I always like to show this because some months our revenues are a lot higher than expenses, and some months our expenditures are higher than our revenues. Not to get excited for that current month because it all plays out.
You always throw that timing thing in there.
Right. Yeah. So through the year, you can see cyclically, the months play out into a 12-month story. So that you can see here for the month of March, The city's revenues and expenses are cyclical, meaning the expenses exceed revenues in the warmer months when street and grounds maintenance and parks are in full swing. Likely the months that have higher revenues, and you'll see on the chart, October and November tend to be higher revenue months due to collection of real and personal property taxes. And I'd like to mention too that timing, due to a variety of reasons, can affect when monthly activity is reflected as well. Last year was a good example of when we had the extension of time for filing taxes last year.
Right.
So that, you know, things like that can affect the timing of things. But that concludes my report. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, well, let's get a motion to file for financial audit report. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Do you have any questions for Commissioner Glenn?
My one question is, so the federal government has delayed the due date for federal taxes, and we've delayed our collection date as well. Is that correct?
Well, last year it was a bigger extension, if you will, because we postponed our net profits. The state postponed their state income tax. This year they postponed or did an extension for individual returns, which will affect some net profits, like partnership type individual returns / net profits. So it's not as wide a spectrum of an extension this year as it was last year. And I did check with the tax department. It's still too early to tell if that's going to be much of an impact for us this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9B, personnel appointments, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Joseph Payne, probationary, full-time, non-civil service appointment to laborer, maintenance helper with the Public Works Street and Stormwater Department, effective April 26. Jenny Cluck, probationary, full-time, non-civil service appointment to revenue clerk with the Finance Department, effective May 3rd. Dana Payne, probationary, full-time, non-civil service promotional appointment to recreational specialist with the Parks and Recreation Department, effective April 25th. And Jonah Bronner and Kyle Patton, regular, full-time, non-civil service appointments to police officer with the Police Department, effective April 14th.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion on these personnel appointments? Okay, hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 10, communication from elected officials.
Mayor,
Yo.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I did have one additional comment for 9C.
We already got by you. Okay, go ahead.
It'll be brief. Just you guys may not know this, but every employee gets a recognition on every 5 years, a service pin, and then on those 5-year anniversaries, I handwrite a note, and Leland typically will do a note for all of our employees, so they get recognized and appreciated for their service every 5 years. So it just so happened, and typically these are presented to them at the department level because there's so many employees. It just so happened we had an employee who conspicuously is in the room with us today who celebrates a service anniversary. Just so happens to be this week, and that is the 30th anniversary for Chief Art Elam. On April 22nd of this year, Chief hits his 30-year anniversary. And so I wanted to take a second to acknowledge him. I also want to take just a quick moment to say that I fully expect in 5 years we're here doing his 35th anniversary. But that's the expectation, right? That's his next one is 35 years here.
He said yes. He said yes.
But in all seriousness, thank you, Chief. We appreciate you. You do a great job for us.
Okay, I've been there 9 years. I've yet to see one of those pins. I'm not an employee, I forgot. Okay, go ahead. All right, anything else you got, City Manager?
No, sir, that is all.
Okay. Communication from elected officials. Commissioner Cashland, I know you're busting at the seams. Talk about something that went on Saturday, so you're first. Get to the mic so everybody can hear you.
Thank you, Mayor. On Saturday, we had a community garden grand opening, and we had a tremendous turnout. I would guess probably 80 to 100 people, wouldn't you, Mayor? And had a lot of activities for the kids, and the community was just as bubbling with excitement, and hopefully everything will keep running smoothly with the gardens. The mayor came by for about 30 minutes.
I was there an hour and a half.
Oh, okay. I was busy. Anyway, I tried to get him to do some work, and he pulled up his sleeve and said he had some kind of surgery, and but you know, so we let him pass on that. But I did want to go ahead and thank Atmos Energy, Owensboro Grain, and Southern Star and the Botanical Gardens for sponsoring this great event. And also wanted to thank, of course, the city of Owensboro and the Parks Department and Rafe Buckner and Martiza Meeks and Dominique Maddox and David Curry, who put a lot of their time in to make this work. And I also wanted to welcome Murphy Excavation to the city. They moved their business to the city of Owensboro along with 20 jobs, and we had a ribbon cutting for that on Friday, and that pretty much wrapped up a busy week that I had last week.
So you think that's busy?
Well, there's a lot I didn't cover, Mayor.
Okay, Commissioner Sanford.
Just wanted to mention a couple things. Just happened to run into the judge today. We were talking about vaccinations, and we're doing pretty good with people getting vaccinated. He said 50 and over. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. I'll go back and say what I started with.
Go ahead, start all over.
Yeah, I'll start over. Just ran into the judge today, and we were talking about people getting vaccinated, and we're doing pretty good with the older folks, but the people 18 to 40 are kind of lagging behind. I've had mine. Probably most people up here have, and I would encourage you to get your vaccine so we can get past this much quicker. Also, yesterday, some of the staff and Commissioner Maglinger and I took a visit to Paducah, kind of to look at some of the things they're doing, and they had some questions for us and things we were doing. But it was really interesting. I don't know how well the public knows how much our staff and how good they are. Because I was at lunch watching the finance department from Paducah hang on Angela's every word, as we were talking about stuff, and they were just really soaking up everything you said, and I was sitting there and I noticed it, and I learned a lot too. I got a refresher on the TIF situation, but anyway, that's something to be proud of. Is they were really asking you a lot of questions, and I think it was very helpful. So thank you. And your department. So thank you for everything you do, and everybody else that went. It was a really good trip. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Commissioner Maglinger, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I got to agree with the trip that we made. It was very impressive to have a staff that
Hey,
Close to the mic.
so knowledgeable and really they did a great job. I think it was the people in Paducah was impressed, and we gave them a lot of good information. They gave us a lot of good information. So anyway, thanks to the staff that participated. Also, around 2 weeks ago, we had a ribbon cutting for the Kentucky Legends Fields at Jack Fisher Park. And I tell you what, that's an impressive sight. You get a chance, you got to get out there and check it out, because it really was impressive. And so that's all I got.
thank you. Commissioner Glenn.
Yes, a couple of health-related items. I want to echo Commissioner Sanford's conversation and his urgence of people getting the vaccine. We don't get to herd immunity, which is 70% or higher, if we don't get 70% of the American public to be vaccinated. And I know it's an intensely personal choice as to whether you get a shot. There may be personal health issues that bar your ability to get a vaccine. But if there aren't, really would encourage you to talk to your family, talk to the people in your support group, and try to get it. And obviously, talk to your doctor. That's probably the best resource you can have. I've gotten the vaccine. My family's gotten the vaccine. My daughter's pregnant. She's gotten the vaccine. So if that's a concern, check with your doctor. But folks, we don't get to go back to living a normal life until we get herd immunity. It's a matter of numbers. It's nothing. It's personal, and it's also statistical. The second is talking to mental health officials in our area. The COVID period we've lived in over more than a year, it's taken tremendous toll on people's mental health on a variety of levels, particularly our college students this year. A lot of them are greatly suffering, our high school students. So I would really encourage you to talk to the people in your circle of friends and family about that too. The days of hiding mental illness, of pretending you should just shrug it off and it's not a big deal, are over. If we truly love our sons, our daughters, our grandsons, our grandchildren, our mothers, our fathers, no one is immune to mental illness and depression. Please get them the resources they need. We have so many great programs in here that will help people, and do not ignore the signs that someone is in need of help before it's too late. Thank you.
You're welcome. I would like to congratulate Chief Elam for his 30 years personally. We kind of talk offline quite a bit. This community has no idea what the chief and his people go through day after day after day. Am I close enough to the mic? Okay. And for him to serve for 30 years is just remarkable, and I want people to understand the sacrifice he and his family make so he can keep us safe, and I certainly appreciate what Art Elam has done for our community. And I want to brag on Commissioner Castlin. He was on his knees trying to figure out how to hook up a water hose so he could water, and that was a neat deal. We had the community college people there. We had quite a few people there that you would not have expected to be at that garden. I told Rafe, I said, I don't want this to be an 80-20 project where 80% of the work gets done by 20% of the people. And he said that he's committed to making sure that this happens. Paul Puckett, a real close friend of mine, is the master gardener that came over from Botanical Gardens and showed the little children how to put peas in the dirt. And I asked them, don't put broccoli and don't put asparagus, but it really is a neat thing, and you should go by every now and then just to check it out. I'd like to ask Commissioner Castlin to kind of give us a report, maybe take a few pictures to let us know how the garden's coming, because there are more planned through the Neighborhood Alliance, Dugan Best, and a couple other areas that this could be kind of a really neat thing. And they built these forms and put dirt in them and put plants in them, and it was pretty impressive to see the little kids shoveling dirt into a wheelbarrow, and some of them were trying to figure out which end of the shovel to use, and Commissioner Castlin wouldn't show them, so I had to go up there and show them where the handle was. So, but it was neat. I mean, some of those children never been involved in anything like that, so they took a big interest in it, and only one kid got whacked with a shovel. I thought that was impressive.
I didn't see it.
You didn't see it?
No.
This girl dropped him. I mean, he leaned in and she popped the shovel up and hit him right in the side of the head. But it was a neat deal. I mean, and that's what our community's about. You know, it's not about all these nasty things you might hear on Facebook and see on Facebook. You know, we're a good community of good people, and I'm real proud of this community for what they are beginning to do down there. And I will echo Commissioner Sanford and Commissioner Glenn on the vaccine. You know, I'm on staff. I have staff privileges at 5 different hospitals, so I get all the shots you can get as soon as you can get them. And I have a granddaughter that's been working in CCU in the COVID unit at the hospital for almost a year now. So if you really appreciate having a healthy community, we need to try and, if you can do it. My wife probably has had 1 flu shot in her life, and I drug her down there and got the J&J shot, the one that they paused with now. But you know, it's important, and it is herd immunity, but the governor has said when we get to 2.5 million people vaccinated, then he'll begin to open up our Commonwealth. So it's about us. I mean, we have to do it, and the largest spectrum of people that are not taking not doing the vaccine are white, male, conservative Republicans. So I encourage all of us to get out and get I've had the shot for a long time, late January, early February. So, and you know, and I know it's a personal decision, but it really is important that we open this Commonwealth back up, because every day we stay closed is a day further we fall behind another state in the United States that's open and moving. So if it's within your consciousness, I ask you to, and I even made a pitch to the whole board of the Economic Development Board I was amazed at the people that hadn't had their vaccine yet. And of course, I'm 70, so I got in line early, but there is a way to because it's not going to be the last pandemic. And if you think it is, you're foolish. So you might as well go ahead and get yourself ready to try and get your vaccine and be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And so I just hope that people will do that. I don't do a lot of Facebook things. I don't get on and, but I'm telling you that 2.5 million get vaccinated. We've been promised by the governor that we will be able to open our Commonwealth up. And just having you all here today is just a real blessing, just to see the faces of people that we've missed all this time. And I'm really looking forward to the opportunity for us to open up fully and get back to the new normal. So thank you.
Can I make a comment?
No, because you already had your chance, Charlie. Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Last week I worked with Mr. Michael Johnson. Owensboro Health was going to put in a portable vaccination in Dugan Best, and we walked through the black community handing out brochures, and that was actually canceled because majority of the people.
Had 19 people show up, wasn't it?
Well, the majority of the people, I probably talked to about 40 or 50, and they said they'd already had their vaccinations. So that shows you just how strong the community is supporting it in the area. And
well, when your wife looks at you and say, okay, I'll get the vaccine because you want me to have it, so that puts the onus on somebody else. But I think it's important that we, encourage, and you young people that think you're not, look at the statistics. Look at the people that are being affected by COVID-19 and see how the ages are dropping. And that's because the bulletproof people in the United States think they're oblivious to this thing, and it's just not that way. So enough said. I don't want to, what did Bob Knight's wife say after he got beat? That's enough. You beat that horse. So I'll make a motion to approve this outstanding meeting in public, Owensboro, Kentucky, Owensboro City Commission. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.